There is this misconception. OKC, Chris Paul, for the record, what did we say a couple days ago? Chris Paul deserves MVP votes. He's having a ridiculous season. This was supposed to be a tank job. Philadelphia tanked for 5 years, couldn't win. OKC tanked for an hour, thanks to Chris Paul, who should be getting MVP votes. But the story today is the Western Conference. The Lakers finished with the number 1 seed. There is this perception out there, oh, it's quite an accomplishment. Now, in most years, you would be right. And I do believe the West is better than the East. It's like arguing the SEC is the best college football conference. Can we stop arguing? It is. Next issue. The West has been better than the East for years. They have more great stars, 20 of the top 25 players. But this has been a very weird season. Now, let's just cut the season into 2 seasons. The regular season and the bubble season so far. These are 2 seasons, okay? So let's remember what happened to the West this year. Because the Lakers finished number 1 and everybody's just patting themselves on the back in Los Angeles. Look at this. It was a transition regular season. The Clippers got 2 new stars and they had to fit them in. And Paul George missed 22 games. But Houston's good. No, actually, Harden got Westbrook and D'Antoni had a whole new staff. Well, Dallas is young and fantastic, but Luka and Porzingis both got hurt. Portland is really good now, but Nurkic wasn't available, and Melo wasn't acquired until the season had already started. Oklahoma City, what a season. Now, let's be honest, the last 20 games, they were great. It was a total rebuild, and Chris Paul didn't know the names of any of the players. What about Denver? What about him? Super young and talented, but everybody outside of Jokic got hurt this year. Colin, you love Utah. Yeah, I do, but Mike Conley starts the season injured. They had to figure out if Donovan Mitchell could be point. It was a mess. Conley came back. They were in transition all year. Oh, by the way, Golden State tanked. The West was in transition all season. New coaches, new stars, new staffs, injuries. And then COVID hit. And everybody got healthy. And now the West, they don't have the issues. Nurkic is back and Melo is feeling it. Westbrook, Harden, they know what works and know what doesn't. Utah, well, they're still Utah, but Denver now's healthy, Jokic and all. Dallas, Porzingis, Luka are humming. They're past their injuries. OKC's playing with house money. Clippers now, Paul George and Kawhi. No load management, no days off. It is now the Lakers who have the issues. They don't have Avery Bradley, their best defensive guard. Good luck against Portland. Good luck against Houston. The Lakers were a number 1 seed, but there is a misconception how impressive that was this regular season. Yes, the West is better. Yes, it's loaded. Yes, it's deeper. But everybody outside of the Lakers felt like they were in this weird transition. They dealt with injuries. And now it's the Lakers who have a huge issue. Rondo's out for still another month. Bradley's out for the bubble. You're asking Alex Caruso to step up. I had 2 scouts texting me last night during this game. And the 2 scouts, I'm sure they know each other, but they didn't know they were texting me. One a Western Conference scout and one an Eastern Conference scout. And they were like, God, this Laker team, they miss Avery Bradley. They're old. They're slow. Chris Paul's 35. He looked like the youngest guy and the best player on the floor. I mean, he was flying around last night. This is not your typical number 1 seed in the West. It's not. And there have been down years in the SEC. Like where the number 1 doesn't feel quite as good. For a lot of Saban's years, Tennessee was a mess. Georgia didn't have a right coach. Florida didn't have a right coach. Auburn was a mess. I watched the Lakers last night, and one of the scouts told me, he goes, Lakers aren't getting to the Western Conference Finals. He goes, they're not. They can't hit threes and they can't defend them. You cannot get to a conference finals if you can't hit threes and you can't defend them, and they don't do either. It's not that they're not good. It's not that LeBron and AD haven't worked well. I love them. Those guys I love, but this is a very limited team, and the number 1 seed isn't nearly as impressive as previous years. So I read this story this morning. NFL history says the Cowboys will be very successful if the wide receivers in Dallas meet expectations. So Amari Cooper had over 1,000 yards. Michael Gallup now looks like a steal, had over 1,000 yards. And last year, Randall Cobb almost did. He's gone, but they draft CeeDee Lamb, who is a spectacular talent, a rookie out of Oklahoma. And in the history of the NFL, if you have 3 wide receivers over 1,000 yards, you're a Super Bowl team. That's the kind of team you are. You're that explosive. The problem, of course, with Dallas is this is not the issue. The receiver thing is not the issue. As Louis Riddick, sports dude at another network, said yesterday on a tweet, the problem for Dallas, they had 9 potential game-winning or tying go-ahead fourth-quarter drives last year across 4 games against really good teams. They got 2 field goals. Nobody in the league got less out of drives that were similar. So the question is in Dallas, was it a Jason Garrett issue or a Dak issue? I'm a huge believer in keeping your eye on trends. And I've said this before. When I first moved to California, I'm about, a few hundred yards from the beach. I would get a coffee on Saturday mornings, go down to the beach, and I would watch surfers. And I would do it like for an hour every Saturday. And it was just therapeutic. And you'd watch these surfers. And the thing I noticed about surfers, and I found it metaphorical in my life, is the really good surfers were patient. They didn't waste their time jumping on average waves. They'd sit there for 15 minutes to get the perfect wave. And this is why I believe in trends. I think life is cyclical. The great times don't last forever like the great waves. Watch trends, be patient, watch trends. And when you see trends, jump on them fast, adapt early. Because people will catch up to those trends and they'll end quickly. So you've got to constantly watch trends, watch trends, watch trends. This is hot. Go for it. Jump on the wave and ride it. Trend's going to end quickly. Great times and great waves are amazing. Ride them, but they don't last long. And Dallas has a trend. The last 3 years with Dak Prescott, here are his numbers against winning teams. These are playoff teams. These are atrocious. He's 6-12, 21 touchdowns, 19 picks, with a really bad passer rating. And this is why franchise tagging Dak made a lot of sense. Because in Dallas, there is a question we don't have an answer for yet. And the question is, whose damn fault was it? Was it Jason Garrett's or was it Dak's? And we will know the answer by December. And if it's Dak's fault, they'll be looking for another quarterback or franchise him. And if it was Jason Garrett's fault, Dak is going to make over $130 million. That's why when I look at the Cowboys schedule this year, if you look at the trend, there's only 8 games I care about. Do not at me. Do not tweet me when they roll the Giants. Do not at me when they beat the Falcons, Browns, Cardinals, Washington. Do not at me when they overwhelm Joe Burrow. I am only looking at 8 games for the Cowboys because the trend I see the last 3 years is they can't beat good teams. I want to see them at the Rams and at the Seahawks. I want to see them at the Eagles, host the Steelers. I want to see them at Minnesota, at Baltimore, and host the Niners and host the Eagles. Exactly half their schedule. That's the trend I want. And if they're 6-2 or 5-3, then that wave I'm jumping on. It's the Dak wave, and I'm riding it for 4 years. But if not, don't waste your time tweeting me as they roll Dwayne Haskins or Daniel Jones or Baker Mayfield. I'm not interested. So look for trends, jump on them quickly, and realize they don't last very long. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.